What's this?
I had been waiting for this sequel since Left Behind came out in 2014. I was so excited about playing and having a deeply emotional experience as I did with the first one. As it happened to many other players, The Last of Us became one of my favorite video games of all time, and I also feared that the sequel wouldn't be as good. Then the leaks came out a month before the game was released, and the hate exploded. I was somehow scared. Why were people hating this game? Why were they saying the story is a train wreck? But I waited and kept my expectations in place.
Hey, is Joel up?
The Last of Us Part 2 came out last week. My girlfriend and I played and finished it on its first weekend. We almost didn't sleep. We stopped only to cook and eat. And
Shut up.
after we finished it, we felt
I was.
bad. Why?
Yes.
Why do we feel so bad after playing a video game? We felt like that the whole day. Then we started talking about the game between us and with other friends who had also finished it. I can explain now why we felt that way. Why so many people are feeling like this after playing The Last of Us Part 2. It's not because it's a disappointment or, as many people are saying, one of the worst games ever. We feel bad because that's how we're supposed to feel after playing it. I'll dare to say that The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the best video games of all time and one of the most audacious gaming experiences ever. By saying that, or even just because of the title of this video, I know people will post hateful comments. You're wrong. I hate this game because it sucks. I don't like it because it's a bad game and I want my money back. You don't know what you're talking about, you Sony fanboy. You only make excuses for a failure. Defending The Last of Us Part 2 implies getting the attention of people with whom it is impossible to reason with. I have to say, if your reasons to hate this game are that you consider it part of a gender agenda or some kind of an awful feminist and LGBT propaganda, please stop watching this video. Go away, don't leave a comment, I don't want to talk to you. With this video, I am not trying to convince haters to change its mind. That I can't do. I want to talk to players who, like my friends, girlfriend, and myself, are having a hard time processing this game. Why you didn't like The Last of Us Part 2? Because you weren't supposed to. And that doesn't mean the game is bad. I've been reading and watching fan reviews of the game. Most of them agree that gameplay, artistic design, and graphics are excellent. The controversy is all around the story the game tells. People feel sick, betrayed, and very disappointed with the story. Let's talk about it. Why is this game making people feel this way? I must warn you, this video contains heavy spoilers of the game. I'll focus on 3 of the main controversial story decisions. So, stop watching if you haven't played it. If you already have, or you just don't care, you can stay. Ready? Okay, here we go.
You good? Yeah. I couldn't get to the horses. Looks like Tommy took one. Now Maria's got the stables locked down.
The game starts with a violent note. In the first 2 hours, Joel, the main protagonist of the first game, is killed in a cruel, horrific way. A group of strangers who were looking for Joel managed to encounter and torture him to death. We don't know why, but we do know that the woman who kills him has personal reasons to do it. Ellie witnesses the murder. She begs them to stop. We beg them to stop. They don't.
End of story.
This is the first thing people are hating about the story. Why? Why does he have to die this way? Unlike other heroes or anti-heroes in media, Joel's death is cold, humiliating, and horrifying. In most stories, we are used to seeing characters like Joel go with a last epic moment of heroism or redemption, something that makes their death significant. But Joel's death isn't. It's just cold blood murder. He didn't die saving Ellie nor saving the world or anyone. The character we played as in the first game, he's no more. If someone told you that Joel was to die in the sequel and asked you how you like him to die, I doubt you will choose something like this. Despite the awful things he's done, we understand him. We love him. Now, people are seeing Joel's death as bad writing. The character didn't deserve to die this way, some are saying. But it isn't bad writing. Killing a character you like in a horrible way is not bad writing. You're supposed to feel angry, choleric, and most of all, disgusted. No one likes to feel that way. No one likes this moment because it hurts so much. We perceive it as unfair and heartbreaking. What we are supposed to feel is hate. The same hate that fills the hearts and minds of Ellie and Tommy. With this scene, despite the fact that we don't know much about the strangers who traveled so far just to kill Joel, we hate them. Like Ellie, we want vengeance. This confirms the brilliant writing of The Last of Us, Parts 1 and 2. Don't think that only because you didn't like what or how something happens in a story, it means the story is bad. If you felt sad, nauseous, and wrathful, then the storytellers are achieving what they wanted. It's what you are supposed to feel when something this cruel happens to someone you care about, even if it is fictional. The game makes you feel hate like Ellie does, because that's the main theme of the game. Hate. You didn't want this. She didn't want this. And now, Ellie and you want revenge. We move now to another moment in the game.
And the dog's Alice. I don't like dogs.
A lot of reviews I have watched and read talk about how awful, boring, and just despicable it is to play as Abby. It happens at the middle of the story, in a cliffhanger moment. We go back to see Abby's story and point of view. How? How can they make me play as this woman? What were they thinking? I don't want this. I hate her. I don't want to play as her. How? How can Naughty Dog make me play as the character I hate the most? How is this a good idea? This is an awful game and they don't know what they were doing because I'm not liking this. Yeah, no one wants to play as Abby. We hate her. We hate her friends. We hate the people who took Joel away from us. Yes, I'm sure they knew what your feelings for Abby were. They knew we would not want to play as her, and that's why they made us do it anyway, at the worst possible moment. First, they made us hate this woman, and now, just when she killed Jesse and she's about to kill Tommy and Ellie, we have to play as her. This is the part that I consider the boldest from Naughty Dog. And they knew what they were getting into. We make you hate this character and guess what? The other half of the game you are going to play like her. You don't want this, we know it, but do it. The thing Naughty Dog wanted to accomplish by letting us, or forcing us, to play as Abby is to not hate her that much. Understand her. Maybe even like her a little bit. Did they achieve it? Did they get us to love Abby? Or at least to hate her a little less? No! Of course not! It was an impossible task. There is no way we can forgive her, understand her, or feel sorry for her, because we hate her. That's what hate does to people. We want to see her suffer and die in a horrible way. And we are not getting that. I don't think there are many players who think, yeah, I really liked Abby. She's cool. Naughty Dog did as much as they could for us to care about Abby. But there was no human power on this earth for us to not hate her. And they knew that. But, again, that's how you're supposed to feel. Angry. Disgusted. Awkward. That's what hate feels like. The gameplay sections with Abby and Lev are the closest to the first game. A broken adult traveling alongside a child uncertain of who they are in a very hostile world. We were in love with the experience of the first The Last of Us, and the closest to that in the sequel happens with Abby and Lev. I think it was a good call. Playing as Abby and Lev reminds us of what it was like to play as Joel and Ellie. I enjoyed Abby's gameplay sections more than Ellie's. The Sky Bridge, the battle against the Rat King, the infested hotel, and the war between wolves and seraphites at the island. Those parts feature ripping level design, exciting battles, and beautiful moments. They are top Naughty Dog's quality. But again, this was not about feeling the same love for Abby and Lev as we did with Joel and Ellie. It's just so you know the other side of the story. One that it's also full of hate, pain, and a deep desire for revenge. If you didn't feel empathy for Abby, it's fine. If you felt awkward and mad while playing as her, good. You're feeling hate. You're not liking this. But that doesn't mean it's done badly. Let's jump to the final and probably the most hated moment in the game. In one of the videos that Bomb reviews The Last of Us Part 2, a user said something like this. It's like Frodo at the end of The Lord of the Rings, but instead of destroying the ring, he decides to keep it and go back home. Many people agree with that sentence. It sounds cool, but it isn't true. We arrive at the climax. Finally, Ellie will get her revenge. We are about to give this hateful woman named Abby what she deserves. And then, we don't. Just at the last second, when Ellie is about to drown Abby, she remembers Joel. Until this point, the image of Joel dying horribly haunts her. She's suffering from PTSD. But at her worst and most violent moment, she remembers the last beautiful time she spent with Joel, and she decides not to kill Abby. Why bother doing all she did, all the massive amounts of killing, if she's sparing the one person who killed Joel and Jesse? Why? Why does she stop? I have encountered many answers to this question, from people close to me and discussions on the internet. When we learn, a couple of minutes later, what happened the last night before Joel was murdered, we learned that Ellie was starting to forgive Joel. She wanted her father figure back, just as much as he wanted his daughter back. They were about to start a reconciliation, but they couldn't. I've heard that, at this moment, Ellie remembers she's capable of forgiveness. She was going to forgive Joel, but couldn't do it. Now, she has the chance to forgive the person she hated the most. I also have heard that Ellie finally understands what the cycle of revenge does, and decides to end it. If she killed Abby, Lev will probably want to get revenge and try to kill Ellie, and so on. The same thing happened with the wolves and the seraphites. They were on a truce, but then a group attacked the other, and the other retaliated, then the first one wanted revenge, and so on. Vengeance is a destructive cycle. Yes, Ellie has already done terrible, unforgivable things. But it's not too late. She stops and remembers Joel not by the way he died, but by the last moment of love she shared with him. This answer is the one that makes more sense to me, but I'm still thinking about it. It could also be that Naughty Dog wanted to leave good space for a sequel or DLC. Yes, it could be that. I know, to many people, this ending feels so unsatisfying and makes all the trouble and suffering meaningless. Yes, that is what hate and vengeance do. You don't break the cycle, it will keep destroying you and the other. By the end, Ellie has lost everything she loved and cared about. She's not capable of doing the one thing that kept Joel alive somehow, playing the guitar. She ends up alone, just what she feared the most. It is definitely not a happy ending. It feels empty. Many stories about revenge give us a sensation of satisfaction at the end. But this story doesn't. Seeking for revenge is not satisfying. It takes everything away from you, and we don't like to think about that.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
There are so many things to talk about this game, and I intend to make another video to talk about those things. Music, lore, characters, gameplay mechanics, and also aspects I don't think are well made, because I don't think it's perfect. Yes, I admit it has its flaws in story and gameplay, but I agree with what most media tells. It's not the game that most of us wanted. It is painful, uncomfortable, unpleasant to play. You didn't like it. I didn't like it. But I loved it. It's one of the best video games of this generation. I'm thankful a video game made me feel this bad about the story, characters, and myself as a player. It made me think. It made me feel powerful emotions. Emotions that I'm not used to feel when I play video games, and I don't like to feel at all. That's what art does. It's not supposed to be joyful all the time. We are used to think of video games and fun like hours of laughs, joy, epic moments, sometimes sadness, sometimes anger, but at the end, good with ourselves. The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't do that. It makes you feel bad because it causes so much pain to the characters you love, and then tries to make you understand the characters who caused the pain. By doing so, it pushes forward video games as an artistic medium, a very powerful one that can help us say many things. I'm inviting you to play The Last of Us Part 2 and give yourself some time to process it. It's hard to swallow. Just because you didn't like it, it doesn't mean it's bad, and vice versa. I will play the game a couple of times more this month. Right now, I know that I like the first part much more, because I like the story of love, of how a little girl rescues the soul of a broken man. But I recognize that part 2 is better and doesn't deserve the hate it's receiving, especially now that it taught us what hate does to people. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have a good day and have fun. Bye!